Welcome to an episode of Carrie in the Kitchen. Today we are in the kitchen working on a couple of recipes. My husband Jeff.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Carrie Oringer and I'm the winemaker for Cornerstone Cellars, and my husband. We are going to whip up a couple of things because Thanksgiving's almost here.
That's correct.
So-
and with Thanksgiving, you always have those things that you dread to eat at Thanksgiving, so we wanted to improve them. It was your idea.
Well, it was. We collaborated because we have been talking about our own Thanksgiving meal, and there are some classic things that must come to the table in most families.
Absolutely.
And we sat down and talked about, well, why is that, and what are they, and what should we do about that?
And which ones do we dread?
That's
You
right.
saw a survey.
I actually do. I have a survey, which I thought was fascinating. What they did is they took a poll of a bunch of people in the United States and said, which dishes from Thanksgiving are your least favorite, are your dreaded dishes? And number one was cranberry sauce. And so I wasn't too surprised about that.
A lot of people don't like it, and most of the time it comes out of a can. You can make it fresh with a little orange zest and it's delicious, but most of the time it's too sweet.
It often is too sweet. And so the recipes we're going to work on today are going to also be wine friendly,
Yeah,
right?
because cranberry sauce ain't.
It just isn't. It can't be. So the second item on the list, the second most disliked thing at 28%, believe it or not, is turkey.
Yeah, and that's because people screw up turkey and they cook it too long and it's dry as a
And
bone.
it gets dry as a bone.
Yeah.
So then the third one is sweet potatoes or yams.
Oh well, that's the classic sweet potatoes casserole
Right.
that people make it sweet and then sweeter, and they put brown sugar in it, then they put maple syrup on it, then they cover it in marshmallows. You can't, I mean, it's basically dessert, so
And then
why
you- and
eat
then
it
you-
with your wine?
Right, and then you toast the marshmallows. So
Exactly.
they get that caramelization on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's all
so,
sweet,
and that
sweet,
is a
sweet.
family favorite in my family.
Oh, yeah.
For sure, but it's not wine friendly.
So we decided to tweak the sweet potato
We are.
recipe and make it a little more wine friendly.
Wine friendly and savory. The fourth item is that green bean casserole.
Oh, yes.
With the Campbell soup, cream of mushroom soup in it.
Been around, it's historical. You found the research on
I
it.
actually had to find out, like, what is it that keeps having that dish that really so many people say they don't like? How does that make it to the table? You know what it is?
Tell us.
Marketing. Marketing did that.
Oh, shame on them.
Shame on them. So in 1955, there was a woman named Dorcas Riley who was in the Campbell Soup Test Kitchen.
Uh-huh.
She invented this recipe, and marketing put it on everybody's table.
Wow. Since 55.
1955.
Well, you know, people love sort of casserole dishes in 55, but in 2005, in 2015, in 2021, we don't have to eat that
No,
stuff.
we don't have to eat.
Cream of mushroom soup out of a can. First of all, it gets very salty to begin with.
Very salty.
It's processed food. And then they crush bad can of onion rings on it.
Artificial onions
Artif-
that have been fried.
Onion rings or potato chips, which is the worst. But we decided there's ways you can make that dish, still keep the theme of mushrooms and cream and the whole thing, but we're just going to make it a little bit more wine friendly and probably taste a little bit better
And a
as
little
well.
healthier.
And healthier
But
as well.
shush, not at Thanksgiving. We don't worry about that.
Exactly.
We do not worry about that. And so those are the two dishes we're gonna improve upon. We'll
Yeah.
go from bland to grand.
Right. You called it going from yuck to
Yuck
yummy.
to yum.
Yuck to
Uh-huh.
yummy is good. I like
Yep.
that.
And so just to finish out the list, the next item is stuffing or dressing. And I'm not sure why people don't care for it. I didn't as a child, but I learned how to make it with
There's so many different
mushrooms
kinds, you know,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and you know, some people just don't like bread, but and also people are afraid of it because it may have been cooked in a cavity. People quit doing that.
Yeah, we were told not to do that.
And what's the last thing on the list?
Believe it or not, it's Brussels sprouts, and that's the one that hurts my heart.
Yeah, and people mess up Brussels sprouts and they cook them really bland.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't put some flavorings on there, they can be very bitter.
They can be very bitter.
You got to use an amazing amount of butter to begin with. I like to fix my Brussels sprouts by making them better. I like to make them better with butter and bacon. So it's the 3 B's for me: Brussels sprouts, bacon, and butter. And then you're in
sounds
heaven. But there's a lot of different ways. Some people don't like bacon, so you can put more butter on there. You can put some flavoring on there. But if you just cook them bland or just blanch them or steam them, my gosh, they're bitter.
They need to be cooked a little bit beyond the greenness.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
To get them sometimes they're undercooked.
And that bitterness just destroys wine.
Yes.
No matter if it's a Riesling or a Sauvignon Blanc or
Yep.
a Cabernet.
Yep. So, and that gets us to the wine part of our conversation. And people ask me all the time, and I'm sure they ask you, what do we serve for Thanksgiving dinner?
Pretty
There's-
much anything.
There's
There's so many things on the
and
table.
scene. We're done.
No, but it's a variety of wines
Yeah.
because there's such a variety of dishes,
Yeah.
and so you need things that are versatile and very, very delicious. So what we
So
suggest-
we have three. I've got three here today. And part of this was an inspiration I did as a tasting yesterday. We did some things and had a conversation with some other women in the wine industry. And unanimously, we thought that Sauvignon Blanc belongs at the table. So either before you're sitting down at dinner, maybe you're just working on the meal, maybe
Maybe you're just doing a
your
cooking
friends
show.
are over, you're just doing a cooking show. So
Cheers.
cheers. Thank you for being
tradition.
here.
I always get a kiss and a drink.
Mm.
I love this show.
Well, we don't like to cook without having something open. So this is the 2019 Cornerstone Cellars Sauvignon Blanc from Sonoma Mountain, the Farina Vineyard. So we're going to do that. We're going to try that with these two dishes.
And that's a very versatile wine as well. It's very clean and crisp, but it's very good, especially with a couple of things we're going to make today.
But good on its own. I think it's going to complement the dishes very well because there's actually some white wine going into one of those dishes.
Actually, does that very Sauvignon Blanc
Yeah.
is going to be incorporated in the dish.
Yes, and so the second wine that we're trying, and anyone who knows anything about either of us at all knows that this has got to be
Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir, for sure. It's a lighter red. It's on the lighter side.
Talk about versatile. There's nothing more versatile than a lighter red.
And the tannins are very light. It's that nice, juicy fruit forward. There's some herbaceousness in there, the dried herbs. When, you know, the herbs hit the table at Thanksgiving time, people tend to cook with them more. There's nutmeg and
There's
oregano.
more ingredients in everything.
Yeah, why it takes longer.
Right.
Which is why you have people bring dishes because you can't make them all yourself.
Absolutely.
And then
you destroy your whole kitchen and you look up and you go, oh my gosh, now I have to clean up after people leave and you got dishes.
That's right. God, you made it sound so not very fun. But the third wine.
Ah, yes.
The third wine from Cornerstone Cellars. This is our 2017.
Mine's a bit light.
Oh my goodness. The hospitality in this house is terrible.
It's all right. Nobody checked the glasses.
It's just terrible.
That's good. Thank you.
So this is the 2017 Cabernet Franc from Cornerstone Cellars, the Oakville Station in Oakville.
Cab Franc, boy, what an underappreciated grape. It's so delicious, and yet so few people make it, and most people don't understand it.
Well, I have to say that one of the reasons a lot of people aren't making it is it doesn't really grow everywhere well. People are growing it in some places, but to have it be in the perfect spot, like the heart of Oakville, in the middle of Cab Country, that's where Cabernet Franc, that's where this fruit comes from. So, and there is also a little bit of Merlot in here and some Cabernet. But this is the wine club wine, one of the wine club wines for November. So your wine club members, this is going to be on its way to you shortly. We only made about 125 cases, so it goes to the wine club. We are serving it in the tasting room if you want to come in and taste. Our new tasting room that's now open in Yountville.
Yay!
Yay! So we're excited about that. So I'm going to stop talking about the wines for a minute and
But
let
that
you know.
wine may end up on their doorstep between now and the Thanksgiving holiday,
Thanksgiving,
so
and
that'll be a great time to
That's
use
where
it.
I would put this.
Yeah.
And the other wine in that is the Cabernet Sauvignon. And so either of those wines I think are perfect for holiday.
Yeah.
I'm going to zip it, and I'm going to let
Especially
you
when people
talk
start serving ham and other things besides turkey.
besides turkey.
There's
yeah.
all, pheasant and you name it.
Ooh, and lamb,
And lamb. There's a lot of things that people serve at the
quail,
holiday.
duck.
Yeah, you name it, they'll serve it.
Yep. Well,
Sometimes they
we've
serve it
done
all
that.
at once.
Sometimes. So we've got the two recipes. So we have the replacement for that green bean casserole.
Yes, we're going to make that
We're
right
gonna
now.
we're gonna make that for you, and we've done a little bit of prep on it, and then we'll talk about the sweet potato substitution, the new recipe we came up with for the sweet potatoes, which I have to say I am a fan of.
Yeah,
So-
the sweet potatoes is I think, a very successful recipe.
Yeah, and so we won't take you all the way through that. It's
It's
so
a
we've
little
got the
complex.
recipe. We'll put it up on the website. There's a few steps to it, but we can we've got some ready to go. So
But
go ahead
first-
and talk.
You bet. All we're doing is starting with a plain saute pan, a medium saucepan under medium butter, and sauteing some onions, about a cup of white or sweet onions with it. And then you're also putting in some mushrooms. And
About
then
8 ounces of mushrooms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, about a half
Yep,
pound.
about a half pound.
And then some thyme that we're going to sprinkle around in here. About a good teaspoon of the thyme. You never have enough thyme, right?
I never have enough time.
Anyway, we're melting the butter and we're stirring up the onions because they're getting ready to soften up a little bit. And as they soften, you're just going to keep adding ingredients to them. So the other ingredients we're going to add are some of the herbs, more herbs. And this, I believe,
There's thyme in there, and then we're also putting in some oregano and some sage.
right. And this is the oregano.
Okay.
So another teaspoon of that, teaspoon or so, whatever you feel like
Yeah,
putting in.
teaspoon or so.
And then the thyme, or not the thyme,
Oregano.
the oregano.
And we're lucky we still have these things coming out of our garden. We've gotten
Yeah.
a lot of rain in like the last few weeks, and our garden has gone crazy, our herb
That
garden.
little bit of rain, the oregano blew up. It literally doubled in size in a couple of weeks. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
So this is sauteing now.
yep.
And this is not going to happen on air because we don't want to take the 5 minutes it takes to have the vegetables start to soften. But as they do, what you're going to add is about 3 ounces of white wine. And this is the Sauvignon Blanc that we told you about before.
Bridge,
So-
it actually is a bridge with flavors.
It's a bridge, it's a flavoring agent, it's just delicious.
When you're cooking with wine, cook with what you're drinking. Don't use cooking wine. What'll happen if there's a wine that, if it's not good enough to drink, it definitely isn't good enough for your food. What'll happen is when you're cooking, that heat reduces that down, and you're concentrating whatever flavors are in that wine. And if you didn't like to drink it, you're probably not gonna like it in your food. So we just threw a couple of ounces, right? This is the Sauvignon Blanc,
3 ounces.
3 ounces.
You can use 4. I used 3.5. I cheat, whatever. But then you want to salt your onions a little bit, and I used about a half a teaspoon of salt, maybe 3/4, but
Yeah.
I like a little salt in my onions.
Oh, that smells good
And
already.
now it's starting to bubble, and they're starting to translucent. So the mushrooms won't totally soften while we're on air, but that's happening. Then you can add a little bit of
Little
black pepper.
There's-
which is
Are
not
you
gonna hurt.
sure you don't want a can of cream of mushroom soup?
That's exactly what we're missing.
That's what we're missing.
Now, speaking of cream, though, this is where you could, if you wanted to, after you add the lemon and cook some of the acid out of it, and I'm
And
just
the wine,
squeeze of
yeah.
half a lemon, and you cook the wine and the lemon until it's not acidic anymore. Can you take
I
that?
will.
And then, if you'd like to, if you want to make this a creamy sauce, to make it more like cream of mushroom, you have mushrooms and onions and all sorts of beautiful flavors in here, including the wine and the lemon juice. And then you could add the cream in here, and that will make it even creamier. Once your,
We can let that saute while we taste the sweet potatoes.
that's a great idea. Once your mushrooms saute, once your mushrooms actually start to soften, then all you do is you take these green beans, which you have blanched, basically you boil or steam them for about 5 minutes to where they're almost done but not quite done.
Well, first of all, what we did is we cut the ends off.
Well, yes, cut the ends off.
Before we
That's
steam
on
them.
the recipe, but you want to steam these until they're parboiled, basically, and then you just add them and toss them in the sauce, and it's done. So we
So
will
a
go
little
ahead.
bit of prep time,
Yeah,
tiny bit of prep time.
a little bit of prep time, not that much though.
Nope.
And we're going to let this go ahead and saute and let the mushrooms soften, because after we're done cooking, we're actually going to sit down and have dinner, and this is one of our
And this is
vegetables.
what we'll have.
And we bought some really good vegetables to have with dinner. So that'll cook.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, we've already prepared the sweet potato recipe, which
sweet
is
potato
really
bones.
great. This is, I think, the best one we did. This is an excellent recipe, and it makes green beans a lot more flavorful,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes away the crazy canned soup aspect of it. But what
And
we
it really
did,
highlights these beautiful fresh green beans. You know, they're actually are accentuating what those green beans actually are. Oh my goodness, look how beautiful that is.
and
Ta-da!
these are baked sweet potato
We
boats.
call them boats.
Okay? And if you'll let me have a
Uh-huh,
plate.
I will.
This is pretty easy. What you do is you take a pan of water and just barely submerge the sweet potatoes after you've cut them in half. You basically boil them. You let them simmer for about 12 to 15 minutes until they're soft enough to scoop out. Then you scoop out the insides, you put it in a pan, and you add all the great flavorings. There's shallots, there's garlic, there's nutmeg, there's all sorts of different herbs in here, and they're really delicious. And you're actually making sweet potatoes much more complex and much more interesting.
And
without
savory.
exactly, I was about to say, without making them sweet by leaving them as a savory dish. Then you scoop them back into the sweet potato shells that you've scooped out. You basically got little boats. So it's a whole lot like twice baked potatoes. And then you put a little bit of Parmesan, or a lot of Parmesan in this case, and we sprinkle it with a little sweet paprika and some chives, and it's red and green. It's very,
Very
holiday,
festive.
yes, exactly.
So festive.
And you have a beautiful dish that you can scoop out.
Do you want the good spatula?
Oh, no, I got it.
Got it? Okay. Nice. That's beautiful.
There you are, and we can show our viewers
Yep.
at home that you have a beautiful plate.
Ooh,
Hello.
boom, right to the
Beautiful
floor.
plate that you can throw at your dog. No, you
The dog's waiting right there, like, hey.
You have a beautiful plate of a beautiful sweet potato boat, and that's
We're
it.
just gonna put it right here. We'll share that.
That's it.
You wanna give those things a little stir over there?
Sure.
I'm going to.
Sounds like they're sizzling, which
They
is great.
they are sizzling, and I can see that the mushrooms are starting to.
Mushrooms are starting to soften.
And the onions look good. It smells fantastic.
The onions are pretty much done, and all we're doing is just making sure that the green beans get coated, and we're good to go.
One of the herbs I think that you put into the sweet potatoes today was the rosemary,
Yes,
which is
there's-
coming from the garden, which to me is holiday.
they're all, yes, exactly. They're all in the recipe, but there's a lot of different flavors in those sweet potato boats. Besides rosemary, I can tell you real quickly,
Oh, here,
you have it over here.
I had it.
It's in the survey.
Yep, it's in the survey says.
In the survey, yeah. There's garlic, there's shallot, there is rosemary, and then the sweet paprika, and then also, what really makes it pop like fall is the fresh ground nutmeg, a whole teaspoon of that, and then a little bit, or actually 2 teaspoons of Chinese 5-spice, which gives it a little bit of exotic character. Then you add the Parmesan, which is a perfect bridge to the red wines, and you've got yourself a very friendly dish of sweet potatoes
Yep.
that are not overly sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to call it that, you can call them savory sweet potatoes.
They're savory sweet
I'm going to
potatoes.
stick these back in the oven.
Keep
and
those
leave them
things warm. I think it's a great idea. And we'll try them in a minute. I like to, when I'm tasting wine and food pairings, I like to taste the wine, revisit that wine before I actually take that bite.
There you go.
I'm starting with the Sauvignon Blanc, the 2019 Farina Vineyard Sauvignon Blanc. You ready for a bite of this?
Yes.
Well, here's a cheesy bite.
Oh, I hate cheesy
There you go,
bites.
I know.
That nutmeg just makes it taste like fall, like baking spices.
There is still a sweet character to it
There's some sugar in the
because
potato.
they're sweet potatoes. It's
Yeah.
right in the name, so you would expect that. But
That's very good, but I think this Sauvignon Blanc is going to be better with the beans. I think that's actually calling out because of the Parmesan
maybe the
for some
Pinot Noir.
some Pinot Noir,
Do you
some
think?
red wine.
Do you think?
I think because, well, first of all, we like Pinot Noir. Second of all that savory goodness.
From that Pinot Noir. And that's from Santa Rita Hills. Cornerstone's been sourcing Pinot Noir from Santa Rita Hills down in Santa Barbara at the Fiddlesticks Vineyard for the last few years, 4 or 5 years. Kathy Joseph's been farming that vineyard for almost 30 years now.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful spot to grow it. It isn't, it's out 10 or 11 miles from the ocean, so it gets all that maritime influence. It's very cool there. There's often fog until noon or later. But then that sun comes out, warms up everything, and the heat comes up off the soil, that rocky soil. You're gonna-
Parmesan works really well with the Pinot Noir, but now I'm trying with the Cabernet Franc.
Okay, so you do like it with the Pinot.
That
But there's an herbaceousness in the Cab Franc, and because of the spices and herbs that we've used, I think that they pair pretty well.
the fruit in the Pinot Noir almost makes the sweet potato taste sweeter, whereas I like the dryness and savoriness of the Cab Franc with the dryness and savoriness of those flavors in the potato. Very good. And the skins are totally cooked. So you can eat the skins as well, and that gives you a little bit more earthiness if you want. If you don't want the skins, just leave them and just eat them. Just scoop them out and eat them.
Because after you did the parboil on the whole sweet potato, then you scooped them out and made your boats. You
Yep.
put that in you put the mashed vegetable into the pan that had your shallots and garlic cooking. Then you refilled the boats, right?
That's correct. I took out all the inside of the potatoes, and cook them with those shallots and the garlic, along with the butter and oil. And that gave it a base. You added all your flavorings, like the herbs and the spices, like the nutmeg, like the Chinese 5-spice, and it just makes this a very complex, interesting, flavorful dish.
And it's flavorful, and I just want to emphasize, because I'm sensitive to it, it's not spicy, it's not hot,
No.
but it's flavorful.
No, and the paprika is a sweet
It's a-
smoked paprika. It's not hot.
It's not hot, and even though you've garnished with it.
You can
it's
buy
not-
hot if you prefer
can.
it, but this is not. This is a
Well, we
sweeter
tried
paprika.
it. We
And
tried
you
it
don't
that way.
care for it that
I
much.
don't care for it that much, but it's still
Would you hand me a
flavorful.
plate and I'm
I
going
will.
to give you a little bit of beans, because the beans are now
I
done.
would love that.
They don't take long.
They-
They're really
no,
quick.
easy dish, and this is great for Thanksgiving as well, because usually when you get somewhere, wherever you're having dinner or your own home, the oven's full. And it's probably got a bird in it still, it might have dressing in it still, the stuffing that gets
People
cooked
are
outside.
cooking pies.
People are cooking pies, so it's nice if you can bring a dish that doesn't need the oven.
Yep.
Yeah, unless you've got a neighbor that'll let you use the oven, and that's kinda nice too. Well, now that looks lovely.
Yeah, and what's nice about this, and it'll brighten it right up, is you can also take it and just to freshen the whole thing up, just give it a little squeeze of lemon.
Okay. So
You can
now,
also put salt on it, but it's already been salted. And that, I think, is just going to be a perfect Sauvignon Blanc dish.
all right, well, I'm gonna start over, so I'm gonna revisit my Sauvignon Blanc.
Please do.
Farina Vineyard, Cornerstone Cellars,
Bingo.
Sonoma Mountain.
2021, right?
Well, honey, no, it's not. It's 2019. It's our current release. It's what we have in the tasting room right now as
Sauvignon
well.
Blanc Nouveau.
That's right, there's your four.
Thank you.
Taking a mushroom. Oh. Okay, I have had green bean casserole hundreds of times. This beats it hands down. And easier, takes less time.
When we were testing this recipe, we really like this dish. I like this dish a lot because I love lemon. I love mushrooms. With the mushrooms, it might even pair all the way to a bridge to a Pinot Noir, but I'm not sure. I think this is a definite Sauvignon Blanc dish with the greenness of the beans. And then you have the onions that are sweet and, oh man,
Oh.
that's delicious.
That dish, the green beans, because there's, people think that it's hard to pair vegetables and wine together.
Can be.
So, and these are green beans, and they're al dente. And I'm not a huge fan of green beans.
No.
Right? But they're delicious. They're cooked beautifully. There's a lot of flavor in there. It makes the Sauvignon Blanc feel lush and tropical fruit flavors, and they're lovely.
Well, and there's Sauvignon Blanc in that dish, so the lemon and the Sauvignon Blanc combine for this beautiful citrusy umbrella that everything fits under, and the Sauvignon Blanc goes beautifully with it. That is lovely. I like that dish a lot. And then the mushrooms give it a little earthiness and a little bit of meat flavor.
Which made me think maybe
Not
the
meat,
peanut
but,
would work
meaty.
too. Meaty. Oh my goodness.
What's that?
We made 2 vegetarian dishes.
Well, it's just to go with a big slab of meat. It's all right. We're going to have a big
It's
slab of
going to
meat.
go with the turkey. You know what? The Pinot Noir works well. So
Okay, wait.
I won't tell you then
Okay, hold on.
what my opinion is.
I definitely have to have a mushroom bite with a Pinot.
All right. Pinot Noir. This
Earthy.
is the 2018 vintage. It's our current release from Cornerstone Cellars. Santa Rita Hills down to Santa Barbara.
Wow.
Fruity. 2 clones, Dijon clones, 667-777.
You lose the green beans a little bit, you taste the mushrooms more. With the Sauvignon Blanc, you taste less of the mushrooms, except for a little bit of earthy, meaty flavor, but you really taste the green beans. So, 6 and 1.5 dozen the other. I really like them both.
Yeah, the Cab Franc works well. I think
I
the
never thought
Pinot
of that.
works better.
That's good.
Yeah, the Cab Franc, there's it cuts back on the fruitiness. So if you like the wine on the fruity side, this might not be the best pair, but it's not. I mean, it works. If you were only going to put one wine on the table for Thanksgiving,
That's not like us.
no, that's not like us. But some people.
No, but you're right. That would be delicious. And the Cabernet Franc just latched onto that sweet potato dish because of the Parmesan and
right.
all the
And the herbs, the paprika on the
and
top.
the savory flavors in there. All
And
the
then there's some
shallots,
chives that we
the garlic.
sometimes throw on here.
Yeah.
Don't we throw? Oh, you know what? The
The
pecans.
chives were for the potatoes. Oh, we
Pecans.
forgot the pecans.
You know what?
I toasted these pecans myself in a little
You
pan
did.
with a little salt. We forgot the garnish.
Because
This
we
might
thought,
change it to a Pinot Noir
instead
dish.
of putting those really terrible processed deep fried onion rings on
Oh.
top.
Or worse,
Right?
candied pecans.
Oh, no.
Sweet,
Sweet,
awful,
don't
terrible.
do that,
What
but
I did was I
roasted.
just took pecans and I toasted them in a pan and added some salt to them.
Oh,
And these are killer.
oh, these are killer. That's the recipe we've been working on. That was like, this is good, but
We
what's...
forgot the garnish. And what we do is
which
we
is
garnish
actually
with a
more than
little bit of
garnish.
herb.
Yeah.
Herb. Oh man, but those pecans. Wow.
Oh, now try it with the Pinot.
Well, I gotta get a mushroom in here.
Get a mushroom in there. Hold on, I'm taking another
Giddy
one
up.
of these.
Okay, boy.
You can use other nuts. You can use almonds.
But those pecans, freshly toasted, yum.
The pecans are lovely. And what how you toasted them? You didn't put them in a toaster. You just put them in a small,
dry saute pan.
non-stick pan.
Yeah, and on medium low,
Okay.
very carefully, don't burn them. Wait till they heat up, and then suddenly they become aromatic, and you're like, oh, they're done.
And then they're done.
Then I salted them, and I took them out and put them in a bowl.
Similar to roasting pine nuts.
These are so good, you can just eat them by themselves.
Good.
Oh. Roasted, they almost taste like you baked them, like they're almost like a pie.
Oh, now try that with the Sauvignon Blanc.
I can't wait.
And get some of the onions too. Because there's a sweetness, and here's the thing that's great about them. There's a sweetness to the onions, and it still works with the wine. It's not sweet like candy.
No, no.
There's just a hint, that light hint.
Well, no, I'm sorry, I forgot the pecans.
Oh, no worries.
And then a
we're
little
good.
bit of herb for greenness.
We're good. Right? And doesn't that sing?
It changes the wine. It's a
Yeah.
bigger, richer wine now.
Yeah.
It's heading, before it was citrusy and lean, and now it's,
It almost has
Full.
the weight of like a Marsan Roussan
Yeah.
or a Viognier, or
Yeah.
maybe not a Riesling, a very incredibly dry Riesling. But that Sauvignon Blanc just went from before dinner to dinner. And if you were going to do a cheese plate after dinner, if you just haven't eaten enough and you need something in between dinner and the pumpkin pie, that would work too.
those pecans changed that dish.
They did.
That was amazing.
They did.
It only took a few minutes to make them, but boy, is that worth it.
You know what? Now I am excited for Thanksgiving.
There you go.
There are so many. We're going to a Thanksgiving dinner where everyone's going to bring things, and I always dread because I'm invited to a dinner. I want to eat the things that are at the table, but I dread that green bean casserole.
And people always ask us to bring wine, which we
Yeah,
do.
we do, of
and then we
course.
go to the table and go, what's going to go with the wine? And then we look and go, that'll work, that'll work, that'll work. No,
Not the
no,
marshmallows.
no,
So
no.
that's what I love about the sweet. I don't know. We call them sweet potato boats. I'll call them that when I put the recipe
Yeah,
up on
we'll
the
call them
website.
sweet potato boats. We will take that to our Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes, we will.
And we might even take the green beans unless people say, no, we're
No,
making
we're
green
making.
beans already.
And you know what? There are some people. There's the one dish that if you don't have it at Thanksgiving, it's not a real
It's the
Thanksgiving.
family tradition.
Yeah, mine's Brussels sprouts. I mean, it's still Thanksgiving. Don't get me wrong, but Brussels sprouts.
For
So-
me, I like having mashed potatoes. I like having the stuffing and the turkey, but I like having gravy on all three. That to me makes Thanksgiving.
See, and
But that's the way I was brought up.
And I can live without gravy.
Well,
And yet we still
thank
get
God,
along.
because I love gravy, and if I ever get
You
stuck,
can always have my gravy, honey. All right. So next week
yeah,
we're not going to be on Facebook. We will be on Instagram Live.
yeah,
We'll have a
coming to
guest
you
with
from
us.
2 locations, here and up in Seattle with
Seattle.
Jim.
Yep, we've got a couple of wines for the holidays and a couple of a recipe or two that we're going to work on and do some fun with flavors on
Yep.
Instagram. And then we won't be around on Thanksgiving because it's Thanksgiving. And
We
we'll
don't
be
want to disturb your
eating this
Thanksgiving, and
stuff.
we don't want to do it with you, so
No.
it's fine.
And we'll be eating this stuff. So I want to grab this. Thank you for joining us. We've got one more adventure before Thanksgiving, which is the biggest food holiday of the year, is it
So
not?
the 3 of us, Jim Geisler from Seattle, and the 2 of us will see you next week. And we wish you the best of the holiday as it approaches. And I love the fact that you're back with us.
Yeah. Do you want
Cheers.
to be production manager now?
I will go turn it
All right,
off.
okay.
Or I'll yell at the stage manager.
All right, so you know what I picked up was the Pinot Noir.
Me too.
It worked with both dishes, but that Sauvignon Blanc does sing with those green beans. So I think we just wiped the green bean casserole off our Thanksgiving menu.